Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. In this video, following up on the previous ones, I'm going to talk about my entire experience towards the preparation and the actual CFA Level 3 exam that I did back in May 2022. And so let's jump into it. But before that, I just wanted to remind everyone, just a little bit of a disclaimer. I noticed that my videos so far have been unable to be open for comments. I don't know why, because in the settings of my videos I set it up to allow all comments, but for some reason comments are not yet allowed to be done, and so I've already contacted the YouTube to make sure that I will be able to allow you to make any comments that you need. So moving forward, I hope that something will come about and I will be able to receive your comments so that I can help you out in any way I can with suggestions for future videos and anything of the sort. So basically, as I mentioned at the end of my previous video, at the time I did the exam. I sat for the exam, the CFA Level 2 exam, at the end of May 2021, and at the time I decided to move to Bulgaria at the end of May, and I just rented a room in Sofia, Bulgaria's capital. And so over the next few days, all I did was basically looking for another job, because of course I was out of the job and I needed something to keep some income coming in. And besides applying for jobs and preparing interviews and all that, I also began doing some sort of a brief review of the CFA Level 3 curriculum that was used for the previous sitting of the exam in May 2021, just to get a brief feeling of the curriculum, even though of course there would be some revisions, some changes for May 2022 which I needed to be aware of, but just to get a light flavor of the curriculum at the time. And later on, I remember that a few days later, towards a little bit more the end of the month of June, I landed a job with a fintech startup based in Germany, which fortunately allowed me to work remotely from Bulgaria. And so I decided to stay because Bulgaria not only has a very low taxation in terms of income, but also the cost of living was relatively low. So for me, it was a no-brainer to stay. And because I was already there, having to avoid the nuisance of packing up, moving back to another place, so I preferred to stay. And also because my expectation was to write the exam in there the following year, 2022. And so I chose to stay. Of course, as soon as I landed the job and joined the company, I remember that basically those light reviews took a little bit of a back seat, because of course during the weekdays, during the week, I was basically working and trying to get up to speed with everything, and then these reviews were postponed only for the weekends. So basically, it and also because I did not want to burden myself up with too much focus on studies, everything. I wanted to keep a light schedule up until the time I would be learning the level 2 exam result, and I would be allowed to register for level 3, in which the heavy duty study would begin. I remember that I think it was in early August rather. I received the exam result from level 2. It was a pass, a fairly comfortable one, above the 19th percentile, as it should be, of course, because it was basically 2 years of studying non-stop from basically from September 2019 and all the way up until May 2021. So basically was almost 2 years. So if you don't stop studying for that period of time, you're pretty confident that you will eventually finish the exam successfully. At that time, as soon as I received the exam result, I began uh, studying for the exam. I made the registration at that time, early August, and just basically full steam ahead with the preparation. And so basically, over the next few months, it basically was all I did: studying, working full time. That's all I did. And this routine continued all the way up until up until December, because in December my contract, which was only for 6 months, expired, and the company decided not to renew my contract. So it was a little bit against my expectations. In the beginning, I was hopeful that they would extend my contract, but in the end, they decided against it. And so from December onwards, back to the drawing board, basically. Applying for jobs, preparing interviews, studying in between. And I remember that in March 2022, I landed a job with another company in the Netherlands, in Amsterdam. And so I had to work in the office. It was another fintech startup, but nonetheless they wanted me to go there and live and work there. And so yeah, it was time basically to pack up and also pay the $250 USD fee in order to relocate the exam center location from Sofia in Bulgaria all the way to Amsterdam. And at that time, I just began searching for an accommodation in Netherlands. But as odd as it may be, I could not find anything suitable. I could not find even a little bit less suitable. I could not find basically anything. The time I had to search for something was very very short, and so basically I had to go and try to find something there on the spot. And I arrived there on early April the 2nd, and as soon as I touched down at the airport, I received a message from a person through Facebook, a person I had in the meantime I had interacted with, telling me that he had a friend that which was an Indian guy, a very nice guy, by the way, that had a room and was renting a room, and he was subletting the room uh, for someone else. And so he asked me, all right, do you want to come? Yeah, sure, let's go. I decided to move in, but it was only for 1 month. The sublet was only for 1 month. I had to sleep on the floor, which was horrible, only with a very very narrow, or should I say very very shallow mattress. And so and it was also about 16-17 kilometers from my workplace. And so basically I had to all at that time was basically working full time, studying, and trying to find another accommodation for May 2022. And so it was a very very tense time, because of course I it was simply non-stop. I was busy all the way. I remember that it arrived at the end, close to the end of April. I could not find any accommodation, and so I had to settle for a place. I had to rent a room without even a contract, nothing. Just a guy, a couple rather, basically rented me a room without a contract. Yeah, of course, it was not legal, but I needed to have a roof over my head, so I could not complain. And so for me, at least, that thing was relatively stable for the time being, because all I needed was to get some sort of a safe environment just up until the exam. Uh, After that, we will see and find something more safe and secure. But I just wanted some peace of mind to get through the exam, and then we would see. Unfortunately, about 10 days before the exam, so the exam was on May 25th, on Wednesday. So I think it was about 10 days before that, in the middle of May, out of nowhere, completely out of the blue. My landlord told me I would have to leave at the end of the month, because he had some issues, or he said he had some issues that he needed to solve, and he needed me to leave. And yeah, basically, as you can imagine, 10 days before the exam, having that kind of pressure to find another place up until the end of the month, it was absolutely nerve-wracking. And bearing that in mind, I have to say a huge thank you to my employer at the time, which was kind enough to give me a week, the week before the exam, off for me to study. It was completely 5 stars, 10 out of 10. It was very, very nice. And basically, yeah, during those days, try to juggle in the study, the final reviews of preparation, and then try to find another place to stay. And fortunately enough, at that time, I was a little bit more lucky, or luckier, should I say. About 3 to 4 days before the exam, I managed to find another room for a very short period of time for the month of June. So at least that was out of the way, and allowed me to at least to focus on the last minute preparations before the exam. Uh, then once the of course the day of the exam arrived, of course, I was nervous, as you should be, because it means so much to you. I decided to go very, very early. The exam was in the early afternoon. I decided to get there in the morning, um, just to make sure that I was there on time, and to make sure that I would do the last minute reviews in there, so that nothing would go wrong. I'm a kind of person which always prefers to do some last minute reviews, even just before getting into the exam area, or the exam room. I remember it was a funny situation in which I met a young lady in there, which was also sitting for the would also be sitting for the exam at the same time as me. And of course, we chatted a little bit, and she told me that it was the third time actually that she was sitting for the level 3 exam. Of course, if you wanted to calm yourself down in that situation, of course that would not help at all. It was very it was not a good omen for neither for any person who would sit for the exam in that situation. Um, then once the time for the exam came, yeah, of course, we receive all the instructions and everything. And I remember that, just a brief note, now, for the 2023 exams, the level 3 exams, I've read on the CFA Institute website that now, both the first portion and the second portion of the exam have a mix of essay questions and item set questions. And but at the time, before that, it was essay questions in the morning, and item set questions in the afternoon. And so many times I heard from previous candidates, all right, what you should focus on is basically, you must survive as much as you can the essay portion of the exam, and then make up for it. Try to compensate for the less successful performance in the essay questions in the item set. And so I went in there with that sort of mindset. Of course, I would try the best I can, but since the beginning, as I began going through the exam, I began notice that something was very wrong, because what I was trying to type in, the characters which would appear on the screen were completely different. And so I discovered, to my, I would say, my horror, that the keyboard layout was the American one, the US English one. And so it just came to me that I did all my preparation in my laptop, which was in the Portuguese layout. And so basically, I thought, what am I going to do? Because I don't know the layout for the US keyboard. And so basically, as striking as it can be, I basically had to do the entire exam, at least the entire essay portion of the exam, at least, basically looking down at my keyboard while I was typing the answers, because I had to, of course, the letters are in the same place for the most part, but the characters, the equal sign, the plus sign, the minus sign, all of that is in a completely different location. And so, of course, I had, because they are the keyboard is not a Portuguese one, so the characters match the symbols on the keyboard. So I basically had to follow the keyboard that I had in front of me. There was no other way to do it. I could not type in and looking at the screen. I had to look at the keyboard, which was, of course, not optimal, because I wasted a little bit more time than I expected. But in the end, I ended up not finishing the essay portion. I think I left one or two questions behind, and I, I can tell for almost 100% certainty that at least a handful of questions that I answered were either incomplete or incorrect. And I remember that there were one or two questions in which what was being asked, I can't even, I did not have the slightest hint of recalling that particular topic in the curriculum, even though I studied basically since August up until May, so it was basically 9 months of preparation. And so that threw me off a little bit. Even when I finished the essay portion of the exam, that half an hour that we have, um, I was so gobsmacked because something that was asked that I couldn't even remember being discussed in the curriculum. So I went, I had the curriculum in PDF files in my laptop. I had brought my laptop with me at the time. And so I basically ran through the curriculum, tried to find that piece of that topic in the curriculum. And so I ended up finding it at I don't know, a given one given PDF. But the reason I did not remember that particular topic was, amongst the thousands of questions that I went through, that particular topic was never asked a single time. And so I thought, well, since this was asked at essay portion of the exam, chances are it will not be asked again in the item set. And so for me, because that is usually the case, what you are asked in the first part of the exam, usually it's rather unlikely you will be asked in the second portion. So basically, I went back into the item set. It ran much more smoothly, because you are much more used to answer the item set questions, because you did it on level 2. Level 1 is multiple choice, freestanding questions, but it's relatively easier it's a relatively easier format for you to answer, so it's much better. This was what happened. I managed to finish the entire item set questions in about with about 15-20 minutes to spare. I had enough time to even do a full blown review through all the questions to make sure that I did everything right. I'm pretty sure that out of the 44 questions, I have nailed more than 40 questions. Absolutely, I'm positive of that. But the main thing is now on to the exam itself. I must say that ever since I began preparing for it, I remember that the level of difficulty of the curriculum is more or less, for me at least, it's more or less equivalent to the level 2, and of course it's harder than level 1. Um, I see many people on in forums on Reddit or and whatever the places saying that level 2 is the hardest by far. Level 3 is much easier. It's still harder than level 1, but it's easier than level 2. In my perspective, I can tell you, after going through all 3 levels, for me level 3 was the hardest by far. Even though the texture and the topics of the curriculum were more or less equivalent in terms of level of the difficulty itself, for me preparing for the essay questions was something really tough, because you have to keep in mind that when you prepare for an item set questions format, what happens is that whatever you are asked to answer, you don't need to know the answer in its entirety. You can go by method of elimination. At least one possible answer will be eliminated, but you can tell by, if you know well enough the curriculum, you will see, all right, this is the answer that it's closest to what I know it is. There is one or two details I'm not so sure, but the other two cannot be. And so this is the one. So you don't need to know the answer completely. You don't need to understand the topic 100%. All right. Sometimes this is foolproof. A little bit. Sometimes it can fail. It depends. But most of the time, I would say 85% of the time, that answer will be the correct answer. All right. With essay questions, it doesn't work like that. Either you know or you don't know the answer. And if you know, if you know a topic, a given topic, it's much easier for you to see the answer on the screen or several answers on the screen and elect one possible answer. But having to write the answer, so you have to, just like thinking out loud and explain a given topic to someone else, it's much harder, and so it requires much more retention and much more and a much deeper knowledge about that specific topic. That's why, and I would say mad props, kudos to Mark Meldrum, because he says that one of the best ways for you to learn the curriculum is to explain it to someone else. So that's why he recommends, and rightly so, he recommends going on Reddit, and because many people post questions in there. And so if you go there and try to answer those questions, try to help these people, you'll probably get at least as much benefit from trying to answer those questions to these people than the people who ask the questions themselves. And so this is extremely important. And for me, trying to answer the essay questions was a transition from multiple choice that it was really tough for me. And because I'm also a person by nature, in any situation in which I have to write a text, I tend to write pretty long answers. I'm very very hard pressed to try to write long answers, because if I write just topics or one or two word, 1, 2, or 3 word answers, it feels like I'm not showing enough to prove that I know the answer. And so I like to write long answers, give like a small contextualization, and then tell the answer that they are looking for. In the CFA exam, it goes completely against what is expected. You must write very short, very focused questions. They usually say you can even write bullet point answers, and you should, because that keeps the answer short and very focused to the point. And so for me, it was a transition I was not really used to, and that's something that I don't particularly like. I would, for me, a candidate would be much more revealing in terms of how much he knows about the curriculum if he writes a long answer than a short one. So for me, it was a totally different ball game that I had to get used to, and so, and also because another issue is that even though the exam has, I would say, 50-50 at least in my time when I sat for the exam. The essay portion of the exam was 50% and the item set was 50%. But if you go to the CFA learning ecosystem, what happens is that the item set questions are much more are in a much larger number than the essay questions, and so your training and your preparation is much more focused on the item set than on the essay questions. And if you need a little bit more assistance on the essay questions, you don't have that. You probably have to resort to a prep provider or anything like that, you see. And so for me, that was really really tough. I went into the exam already expecting to struggle a little bit on the essay portion of the exam. For me, the issue of the keyboard was something on top of that really really threw me off. But yeah, basically it is what it is. um, I remember that at the time, I never in each of the 3 exams, I remember that I never came out of the exam with such a low expectation about the result, and without so much fear that I would not pass the exam. This was really really tricky, and especially because my feeling was, all right, the item set portion was fine, very good, but the essay portion is what is going to doom me, and if I fail, it will be because the essay portion. And I began to having second thoughts, like, if I fail, how am I going to practice more the essay questions, given the fact that they are in very low quantity? I need to do more of those, but how can I prepare more for those if those are much scarcer relative to the item set? And so all of these scenarios were playing to my head. And as you know, the level 3 exam takes much longer to get the results, and yeah, that was something that I was not it didn't help to calm me down. But yeah, basically I ended up passing the exam. I don't know if it was a very comfortable pass, if it was a little bit more on the edge, because they don't give you the detailed results. They just give you whether you pass or not pass. But basically that's it. So pointers for the exam, for this exam, looking back, for me, having done my preparation very very early was absolutely critical, given the setbacks I ended up facing in the coming months. But nonetheless, early preparation is absolutely key, especially for the essay portion of the exam. This is a deal breaker. Either you start early, or it will be much more difficult for you to catch up, especially when it comes to the format of the exam. You also, please, during your preparation, go to your computer, download the US format if you do not already use it, the US English layout of the keyboard. Download it to your computer and use it extensively as much as you can, because it will save you a lot of grief when it comes to the exam. And basically, I would say, because the item set questions, you have already a lot of practice through the other exams. Give an additional focus on the essay portion of the exam. Um, for folks that already have quite a lot of experience in the fields of asset management, portfolio management, research, sorry, a lot of the topics in level 3 will be already very easy for you to grasp, because portfolio management has a very large portion, is a very large portion of the exam, so for you it will be easier. But for the folks which do not have that sort of experience, which is my case especially, it's very important for you to get started very early, and to make sure that you come up with all the preparation that you need, no matter whatever it comes to you in the coming months. So basically that's it. And yeah, basically, I hope to have soon to have the comment section on available soon. So anything you may need, just give me a shout then, and I'll help you in any way I can. So this wraps up this three video sort of set. And then I will do another video on the ESG exam, which I did following up the level 3 exam, and I will talk a little bit about that preparation and the exam itself, which was, of course, it's a completely different exam. And so those details I will leave it up for another video. So that's all for me from my side. So I wish you all the best and good luck for your upcoming CFA exam. All right. Thank you so much. Have a great day.